Security is the prevention of unauthorized access to the database. In an organization, the database administrators normally determines the type of access various users can have to the database. Some users may be able to retrieve or update the database. Other users, they can only maybe view the database. And still, some other users may want to have access to a portion of the database. In SQL systems, there are two security types of mechanism that can be applied. One of them is called the grant statement. So in the grant statement, different types of privileges can be granted to the users, and if necessary, later it can be revoked. These privileges include such a thing as the right to select, insert, update, and delete table data. You can also revoke user privileges using the revoke statement. So this is in the revoke statement, you can actually, in the SQL command, put revoke select on customer, this is the name of table, from Jones. The other security mechanism that we just talked about briefly before is the views, which furnish a certain amount of security. When users are accessing the database through a view, they can not access any data that's not included in that view. So that's another sort of a security. But the main security mechanism is actually the grant. Next part that we are going to talk about is integrity rules. A relational database must enforce two important integrity rules that are being defined by Dr. E.F. Cott. One is entity integrity, the other one is referential integrity. So let's look at entity integrity. So what is entity integrity? Entity integrity is the rule that no field that is part of primary key may accept null values. Entity integrity guarantees that each record will indeed have its own identity. To specify primary key in SQL, we enter a primary key clause in either an alter table or create table command. In general, the primary key clause has the form primary key followed in parentheses by the field or fields that make up the primary key. So for example, it could be primary key, open parentheses, customer num, that is the field, that is the primary key. However, in Access, we designate the primary key by using the table design view. We click the primary key button in the tools group on the table tools design tab, which I'm going to show you in a minute. We will go to Access and we click on table design, and as you can see, we see this. So I'm going to start typing some field here. So I'm going to have customer num. I'm going to have customer name. I'm going to have street. I will have city, and so forth. And then we have to put the data type. For the data type for the customer num, I want it to be number. For the customer name, I want it to be like text, that's fine. And for the rest, I will leave it text. So how do I assign this customer number to be a primary key? I can just click on the primary key here, and you can see there is a key here. So automatically, I'm assigning the customer number as the primary key by clicking the primary key button. So the SQL command to specify a primary key is primary key customer number. This is the field. You can use with alter table or the create table command. And this is also, which I've shown you, specifying a primary key in Access. You can just click on the primary key when you are in the table design. So if you want to show more than one table as more than one field here, you can actually show that you have order number and part number. The combination of these two fields can be a primary key, and you can do it the same way that I've shown you. So let's see what's a foreign key. Foreign key is a field or collection of fields in a table whose value is required to match the value of the primary key for a second table. Referential integrity, however, is the rule that if table A contains a foreign key that matches the primary key of the table B, the value of this foreign key must match the value of the primary key for the sum row in table B or B null. To specify referential integrity in SQL, we use foreign key clause in either the create table or alter table command. To specify the foreign key, we should specify both field that is a foreign key and table whose primary key the field is to match. So we use foreign key, the rep number, references to the rep table. So this is the table and this is the foreign key. In Access, we specify referential integrity while defining the relationship. So let's see how we do it in Access. And I will show you in Microsoft Access how to get this. So we will click on Design Relationship, and we can also edit the relationships here. So these are some of the tables that I had between rep, customer, orders, order line, and items, so that you can see that the relationship are existed here. So if I want to edit the relationship, I can click here, edit, and I can say from the customer table, we can say rep to the customer table. As you can see, these two, we're going to look at these two. And we can put enforce referential integrity check. And we can actually, this is the primary key of the rep table, and it is going to be the foreign key into the customer table. And as you can see, the relationship type is one-to-many right now. Referential integrity enforced, user cannot enter a customer record with a sales rep number that doesn't match any sales rep number currently in the rep table. An error message can appear, such as showing that you cannot add or change the record because a related record is required in the rep table. The referential integrity violation happens when attempting to add a record into our table. So I'm going to actually close these. So I just went to my customer table and I just added this 895 here. And what I did, I just added a rep number that's not existed, the rep number that doesn't match any rep number value in the rep table. And that's 50. 50 is not in the rep table. So it says you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in the table rep. So that actually, if somebody by mistake adds this rep number, it actually tells them that be careful, you cannot do that because the rep table doesn't have this number. So if you want to add this rep number, you have to first add it to the rep table. Also, in here, I'm showing you the referential integrity violation when we are attempting to delete a record. So I put my cursor here and I right-click to delete. And as you can see, it says the record cannot be deleted or changed because table orders include related records. So some of these records, if I want to delete it, it's going to affect the orders table. So that's another rule that when we are putting the referential integrity, some of the violation, you will get these. So it's important for us to apply those rules so that, somebody is not going to mess around with our database. In addition to the two integrity tools that we have talked about, the third type of integrity is called legal values integrity. Normally, there is a particular set of values that are called the legal values that are allowable in a field. Legal values integrity is the property that states that no record can exist in the database with a value in the field other than one with the legal values. So let's see how this works. So for example, in the Premier Products database, the legal values for the credit limit fields are 5,000, 7,500, 10,000, and 15,000. The database must reject an attempt to enter a record with a credit limit of 12,500 because it's not within this set limit. In SQL, we can use the check clause to enforce legal values integrity. So we can put the check clause here and then put the values that we want to check in there. So what happens, the database management software will automatically reject any update to the database that violates the condition in the check clause. So if it's 12,500, it's going to automatically reject it. So let's see how it would work in Access. In Access, we can restrict the legal values accepted by a field by entering an appropriate validation rule that the data entered in the field must follow. Also, validation text, which informs the users of the reason for the rejection of data that violates that rule. So let's see how it would work in Access. So we go to our customer table and then we go to the design view. As you can see, we can see this table here. So for the credit limit, we want to actually put a validation rule for the credit limit. So down here, as you can see, we have the right now the validation is equals to 5,000 or 7,500 or 10,000 or 15,000. And also we should have a validation text that says must be 5,000, 7,500, 10,000, 15,000. So if we go and enter something like 12,500, it's going to reject it. So in here, I went here and I changed the 5,000 to 12,500. As you can see, the validation rule says must be 5,000, 7,000, 10,000, 15,000. This is the rule that we just put in the validation text for the credit limit.